Hello, my name is Duncan Moss, and I'm a lay minister here in Verwood, and this is my thought for this coming week. In Washington, D.C., there is a museum called the Holocaust Museum, which focuses on the atrocities that took place about 80 years ago in Europe, not only to the Jewish peoples of that day, but also the vast numbers of people that were also considered by the Nazi regime as being just not wanted. Floor upon floor of stories of man's inhumanity to man and the way in which many of the German people of that day were almost brainwashed into believing that what was being done was the best way forward. Very harrowing indeed. The museum put forward the argument that if those who are in power of a particular nation have evil intent, then it is a slippery slope to evil action actually taking place in that nation. The museum's purpose is not only to inform of the past, but also warn about the future. To warn that unless people actually make steps to defend what is right, then evil can prosper, which is just another way of putting the saying, evil prospers when good men do nothing. And to that end, they are promoting the slogan, "What you do matters," arguing that it is the duty of each one of us to do what is right and stand up for what is good as much as possible, and not just assume that it will be done by others. Teaching our children about what has happened in the past is very important, like showing them some of the events of last Remembrance Sunday, which is, I believe, a good thing. It was great to see a number of our Verwood children at Ferrets Green last Sunday laying wreaths. By doing and encouraging that simple thing is a step in doing what matters. The Bible is full of stories of people who did what matters, certainly when the need arose. Last week the story of Esther was recounted in our church, and she is a wonderful example of that. She did what mattered. She lived 2,500 years ago in a city called Susa, the ruins of which is in modern-day Iran. She was the wife of the king of that day, Xerxes. One of Xerxes' top advisors wanted to kill and persecute a whole innocent group of people of that society, of which Esther was a descendant of. So she was secretly lobbied by that group to persuade her to change the king's mind and stop that persecution. But to do that would have put herself at great risk, as she would have to stand against that evil adviser and the law behind him. She could have thought, well, I am fine as I am. I could just ignore what is going on and keep my head down and do nothing, and all will be okay with me. But she did not do that. She believed that she had the duty to do something and try and sway the king's mind. She did what mattered, and even though she put herself at great risk, the king was eventually swayed and the peoples were spared. Indeed, that evil adviser was actually condemned instead. Whilst none of us, I am sure, will ever have to come face to face with something like what Esther did, we will from time to time be faced with decisions to make. Do what is right or not. Defend freedom. Defend the innocent. Speak the truth, etc., etc. And the Bible does encourage us to use people like Esther as an example of how to live our lives. It is greatly encouraging to see that in the last few decades there have been an increase of awareness of the sacrifices that have been made in generations past. And I hope that as we increasingly live in a world where what is right is determined according to where the wind blows from, that we root ourselves in what is proper and do what really matters for the common good. Thank you for listening.